Hi, Kevin. Uh...
At least, not an intelligible word.
Remember when a quiet suburban kid with a baseball glove somehow became the most emotionally devastating thing on television? That was The Wonder Years. Airing on ABC from 1988 to 1993, the show followed Kevin Arnold, played by Fred Savage, as he stumbled through the late 60s and early 70s, surviving first love, awkward family dinners, school bullies, and the slow realization that growing up doesn't come with a manual. Danica McKellar played Winnie Cooper, the girl next door who made an entire generation feel things they weren't ready for. Josh Saviano was Paul Pfeiffer, Kevin's nerdy best friend and future lawyer. Dan Lauria and Allie Mills played Jack and Norma Arnold, the parents who somehow held it together while saying almost nothing. It looked like a sitcom, but it hit like a therapy session, and while the show felt simple on the surface, there's a lot that happened behind the scenes you probably never knew. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the shows that shaped us. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about the Wonder Years, the show that proved childhood doesn't need a laugh track to hurt a little. Now let's get into the countdown with number 15. Kevin and Winnie's first kiss wasn't acting. That kiss in the pilot, the quiet pause, the lump in your throat, the moment the Wonder Years stopped being just a show and became something you actually felt, well, here's the part that makes it hit even harder. It wasn't acting. Fred Savage and Danica McKellar were 11 and 12 years old, and neither of them had ever kissed anyone before. Not on screen, not off. So when Kevin leaned in and kissed Winnie, audiences were watching two very nervous kids experience their actual first kiss, with a camera crew 6 inches from their face. No pressure or anything. The scene took 6 takes, not because they didn't know what to do, but because Danica kept smiling. She was excited, nervous, and giddy. Unfortunately, Winnie had just learned her brother died in Vietnam, so smiling was very much not the assignment. Eventually, they nailed it. The final take includes a small unscripted moment where Fred gently strokes Danica's hair, something no one told him to do, it just kinda happened. And that tiny detail is part of why the scene still feels painfully real decades later. It wasn't a TV kiss, it was a first kiss. Awkward, tender, and captured forever on network television. Millions of people saw it once and never forgot it. Probably because it wasn't manufactured, it was just real. Number 14, a 13-year-old beat Hollywood at its own game. The Wonder Years didn't slowly earn respect, it kicked the door down and took it immediately. Fred Savage was just 13 years old when he became the youngest actor that was ever nominated for lead actor in a comedy series at the Primetime Emmys, a record that still stands today. 13! While most kids that age were stressing about braces and gym class, Savage was going toe-to-toe with grown adults who'd been working in Hollywood longer than he'd been alive. And the show itself wasn't messing around either. After airing only 6 episodes, The Wonder Years won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series in its first season.
Well, don't say I didn't offer.
And that was that. It was hopeless. This race was over.
Six episodes. Most shows don't even figure out their opening credits by episode 6, and this one was already collecting hardware. No long resume, no years of critical buzz, just a handful of quiet emotional episodes about growing up in the suburbs. And suddenly the industry had to admit this little nostalgia experiment was the real deal. A freshman series, a teenage lead, and an Emmy win before the network even knew what they had. Hollywood didn't just notice the Wonder Years, it crowned it, and for one brief weird moment, a soft-spoken kid with a baseball glove and a lot of feelings became the most impressive thing on television. Not bad for a show that almost got bumped for China Beach. Number 13, an 80s show pretending to be the 60s on purpose. Now, here's the thing about the Wonder Years. It wasn't actually made in the era it was famous for. The show aired from 1988 to 1993, but it was set between 1968 and 1973, so what audiences were watching was the late 80s remembering the late 60s through a soft filter and a whole lot of emotional manipulation. The good kind, of course, the kind that made you call your mom afterwards. And that distance was the whole point. Adult Kevin, voiced by Daniel Stern, looked back on his childhood with the benefit of hindsight and the occasional wince. The Vietnam War loomed in the background. Music did the emotional heavy lifting, and everyday moments were treated like they actually mattered because memory has a way of inflating everything.
But if you do call her back, may as well hang a billboard up saying, "Winnie, come back, please." Or better yet, maybe you should throw a party for her.
Talk about stupid.
The show wasn't interested in historical accuracy. It was interested in how those years felt when you looked back on them. It was slightly warmer, slightly sadder, and way more meaningful than they seemed at the time. Most nostalgia shows just recreate an era and hope you get misty-eyed. The Wonder Years showed up with the nostalgia already processed, pre-chewed, and served with a side of existential longing. That's why it hit harder than a show about a suburban kid doing homework had any right to. Number 12, Kevin and Winnie were meant to be, until they weren't. For 6 seasons, everyone assumed the same thing. Kevin Arnold and Winnie Cooper were endgame. They were first love, childhood sweethearts, fade out, roll the credits. That was the plan until real life kept getting in the way. Instead of giving fans the fairy tale ending everyone expected, the Wonder Years went for something quieter and way more painful. In the finale, adult Kevin reveals that he and Winnie wrote to each other for years while she studied in Paris and then drifted apart. He married someone else, had a son, and life moved on. It wasn't the ending viewers wanted, it was the ending the show believed in. Showrunner Bob Brush said the decision was intentional, a reflection of how childhood love shapes you even when it doesn't last forever. Memory over fantasy, and truth over comfort.
This is your order?
I knew it was the only way I was going to get to see it tonight. So we're still on for dinner?
When the night has come.
And if you're still not over it, you're in good company. Fans still tell Danica McKellar they're disappointed. She occasionally offers a hopeful maybe about Kevin and Winnie finding their way back someday, which feels exactly right. The Wonder Years never promised happy endings, just honest ones, and honestly, that's why it still hurts. The Wonder Years never promised fairy tales. It promised honesty. Childhood love doesn't always last. Sometimes it just teaches you how to feel deeply and then quietly exits your life. Kevin and Winnie didn't end up together, they ended up realistic, and for a show built on memory, that might have been the bravest choice it ever made. Number 11, The Wonder Years looked like a movie on purpose. Late 80s sitcoms followed a strict formula. Overlit sets, 3 cameras are pointing at a living room, a laugh track that kicked in every 12 seconds whether the joke landed or not. The Wonder Years walked into that landscape and said, "We're gonna pass." There was no laugh track, no studio audience cackling on cue, no pause for applause moments after a zinger. Suppose a scene was funny. Great. If it was painful or awkward or just quietly sad, the show let that silence hang there like a bad grade on the refrigerator.
It was big, all right. Big, mean, tough. It was totally humiliating.
The visuals matched the attitude. Single camera shooting gave everything a cinematic quality. Real locations, natural light filtering through windows, shadows in the corners of rooms. Most sitcoms looked like they were filmed inside a JCPenney. This one, however, looked like somebody's actual memory. It was slightly faded and a little too warm. That visual grammar mattered. When Daniel Stern reflected on moments that didn't resolve cleanly, the image supported the silence instead of fighting it. Fast forward a few years, and shows like Malcolm in the Middle and The Office would be praised for rejecting laugh tracks and embracing single-camera storytelling. They'd be called revolutionary. The Wonder Years had already done it quietly in 1988, while everyone else was still pointing 3 cameras at a couch and waiting for laughter to tell them what really mattered. Number 10, The Wonder Years stole its voice from a holiday classic. Now, before The Wonder Years became one of the most emotionally honest shows on television, it was a movie script gathering dust. Creators Neil Marlins and Carol Black originally wrote a feature film built around one idea. Let an adult narrator say what the characters were really thinking, even when the kids on screen had no clue how to express it. That tension between memory and reality was the whole engine. The movie stalled, but they didn't trash the concept, they reshaped it into a TV pilot instead. And they leaned hard into their biggest inspiration, A Christmas Story. Just like Ralphie, Kevin Arnold's childhood got filtered through an older, wiser voice, looking back with affection, humor, and the occasional wince. Both stories turned small moments into big emotions. Both made nostalgia feel personal instead of plastic. The Wonder Years grabbed that playbook, stretched it across 6 seasons, and turned it into a television language. Daniel Stern's voice became the sound of processed memory. Every first kiss, every fight with Wayne, every awkward dinner, it was filtered through a grown man who'd already survived it. And the show acknowledged its debt. Peter Billingsley, Ralphie himself, showed up in the final episodes as a random coworker. No fanfare, just a quiet nod. Dan Lauria, who played Kevin's dad, later portrayed Gene Shepard in the Broadway version of A Christmas Story, and years later, Stern played Ralphie's dad in A Christmas Story 2.
Why don't we all take a picture, huh? Yeah. Everybody, 3, you by the tree.
Dad, honey, I'm not dressed.
The Wonder Years borrowed a voice, built a genre, and spent decades saying thank you. Number 9, the theme song that almost trapped the show in the past. Joe Cocker's With a Little Help from My Friends is burned into the brains of anyone who watched The Wonder Years.
Out of tune, would you stand up and walk out on?
Gravel crunching, sun setting, childhood slipping away in real time. But that theme nearly kept the show locked in a vault forever. The song was already legendary, originally written by the Beatles, then completely reinvented by Cocker in 1968 into something raw and gut-punching.
Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song.
When the show used it as its opening, it instantly set the tone. This wasn't a sitcom, this was memory. Here's the problem though, nobody in the late 80s was thinking about DVDs or streaming or really the future at all. The Wonder Years used hundreds of licensed songs from the late 60s and early 70s, and those original contracts only covered broadcast TV. Home video rights were not included, so when fans spent years begging for a proper DVD release, the answer was basically, we'd love to, but the music alone might bankrupt us. The show stayed locked away for years. Clearing all those songs, including Cocker's theme, was expensive, complicated, and brutal to negotiate. Finally, in 2014, Time Life pulled off a minor miracle and released the complete series with roughly 96% of the original music intact. A few songs got swapped, but for lifelong fans, it was close enough. The song that defined the show almost kept it frozen in time, which honestly feels a little too on-brand. Number 8, Kevin Arnold's house is still there and fans still find it. The Arnold family didn't vanish into TV history when the final episode aired. It's still standing at 516 University Avenue in Burbank, California. The same house used for exterior shots throughout the entire run. It's still recognizable, still a private residence, and still quietly judging anyone who slows down to take photos. Seeing Kevin walk down the street in the opening credits with the house perfectly in view will instantly unlock childhood emotions whether you asked for it or not. And the neighborhood around it is basically a Wonder Years cinematic universe. Winnie Cooper's house sits diagonally across the street, Paul Pfeiffer's place is nearby, and the whole area was chosen because it felt timeless. Tree-lined streets, 1940s architecture, and the kind of suburb that looks exactly like memory pretends the past was. Fans still make the pilgrimage. Photos from the sidewalk pop up online as recently as 2024 and 2025. Just strangers standing there in front of a house that feels emotionally important, even though nothing actually happened there. Because here's the thing, the interior shots were all shot on a soundstage at Fox Studios. The magic was real, but the walls were not. Still, the house remains, owned by the same family since 1987. Kevin Arnold grew up and moved on. His house just stayed put. Alright, now, before we keep going, we're going to take a quick pause, because if just thinking about adult you narrating your puberty years makes you cringe, hit that like button and subscribe. Also, hit the comments if you thought Kevin and Winnie were supposed to ride off into the sunset together. Alright, let's get back to the countdown with number 7. Anytown, USA was very obviously California. The Wonder Years was set in Anytown, USA. Just a vague, emotionally resonant suburb where every viewer could project their own childhood onto Kevin Arnold's awkward adolescence. ABC loved the ambiguity of it. The creators had opinions. Neil Marlins pictured Long Island while Carol Black imagined Maryland, but the network shut that down. Universal reliability was the goal. Specificity was the enemy. Too bad California kept photobombing every episode. In Wayne on Wheels, Wayne's new driver's license flashes on screen with a Culver City address and a 90230 zip code.
Yes! 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 Woo!
It was a moment to remember. For one brief instant,
My brother and I were in total agreement.
The props department basically doxed the show's location in a single frame. And the cars didn't help either. Jack Arnold's station wagon, California plates. Kevin's later ride, California plates. The Arnolds apparently registered their vehicles in a suburb that doesn't exist, but definitely reports to Sacramento. Then there were the palm trees sneaking into shots like paid extras. Winters with zero snow, and characters casually mentioning surfing like every American teen hits the waves after algebra. The show filmed entirely in Southern California, Burbank exteriors, Fox Studio interiors, while the scripts kept insisting otherwise. Nobody cared. The Wonder Years sold emotion, not geography, and memory doesn't check license plates. Anytown, USA just had suspiciously perfect weather and zero explanation for it. Number 6, half the family wasn't even in the room. The Arnold family felt like a unit, with tense dinners, living room blow-ups, and quiet moments where everyone seemed locked into the same emotional frequency. But behind the scenes, they were often filming hours or days apart. California child labor laws dictated everything. Fred Savage and his younger castmates could only work limited hours, which meant shooting a full family scene in one sitting was sometimes impossible. Directors filmed the kids first, sent them home, then brought in the adults to perform their half of the conversation later. Editors stitched it together. Magic happened, but nobody noticed, except Allie Mills knew. She played Norma Arnold with warmth and patience for 6 seasons and spent a shocking amount of that time acting opposite a smiley face taped to a wall. Only a hand-drawn smiley face. That was her scene partner for some of the show's most emotional moments.
So, I'll pick you up at school tomorrow and we'll go for those shoes.
The lines were drawn. The course was unalterable.
Okay, honey?
Mills had to imagine the pauses, guess the eye lines, deliver maternal warmth to a yellow circle, and trust the editing would make it look like a real conversation. And somehow it worked. Those dinner scenes still land. The family still feels present, and the emotion still connects. A show about memory was literally assembled in fragments, pieced together after the fact into something that felt whole, which honestly is exactly how memory works anyway. Number 5, Paul Pfeiffer actually became Paul Pfeiffer. In the series finale, adult Kevin casually mentions that Paul Pfeiffer went to Harvard and became a lawyer.
So was Paul. He went to Harvard, of course. Studied law. He's still allergic to everything.
Nobody was surprised. The kid quoted regulations for fun. He organized his locker by subject and emotional importance. A law degree was practically destiny at that point. The weird part of that was that Josh Saviano did almost the exact same thing in real life. After the Wonder Years ended, Saviano skipped the usual child star spiral. No reality shows, no Where Are They Now segments, no embarrassing club appearances in 2003. He went to Yale, then law school, then he became an actual practicing attorney in New York City. Not dabbled in legal consulting, not has a friend who's a lawyer, real bar exam, real clients, real billable hours. Paul Pfeiffer energy fully realized. Saviano even circled back to television briefly, playing a defense attorney on Law & Order SVU.
LAPD ruled Amber Forbes' death an accidental drowning. Not to mention, this is out of your jurisdiction.
Amber's not the issue.
The fictional nerd became a real lawyer, then played a fake one. Peak full circle nonsense. And about that Marilyn Manson rumor. Yeah, I'm not kidding. People genuinely believed Josh Saviano grew up to become a shock rock icon in whiteface and leather. The theory survived for years despite making literally zero sense. Saviano picked contracts in courtrooms, while Manson picked snake costumes and controversy. Slightly different career trajectories. Most child actors veer wildly from their characters, but Saviano just stayed Paul. The Wonder Years predicted his future and nailed it completely. Number 4, the Super Bowl lead-in that changed everything. Launching a new TV show is usually a slow burn. Word of mouth, modest ratings, and a quiet hope that people eventually find it. The Wonder Years skipped literally all of that. On January 31st, 1988, ABC did something bold, and at the last possible second. Instead of airing the planned premiere of China Beach after Super Bowl 22, the network swapped in a completely untested show about a nerdy kid growing up in the suburbs. No focus groups, no soft launch, just a Hail Mary with a 12-year-old and a Joe Cocker song. Nearly 30 million people who tuned in for football suddenly found themselves watching Kevin Arnold fall in love, get his heart broken, and narrate his childhood with quiet regret.
Well,
Looking back, the 1968 Super Bowl didn't seem like such a big deal. But then in 1968, I wasn't such a big deal either.
It was just a voiceover, a slow walk down the street, and a perfectly timed needle drop. And somehow it worked. Roughly a third of the Super Bowl audience stuck around, which in TV terms is basically winning the lottery twice in the same night. Overnight, The Wonder Years wasn't just a new show, it was a cultural event. Critics loved it, audiences connected, and ABC executives got to pretend the last-minute schedule swap was genius instead of panic. One football game, one risky programming decision, and suddenly, Kevin Arnold was America's kid. Number 3, Winnie Cooper grew up to be a math genius. For most of us, Winnie Cooper was the girl next door. Soft-spoken, thoughtful, and somehow always wiser than Kevin deserved. What nobody expected was that after the Wonder Years ended, Danica McKellar would go on to become a mathematician. Not good at math, an actual mathematician. McKellar earned a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from UCLA and co-authored a peer-reviewed research paper while still an undergraduate.
I excelled in my classes and I loved it. I had the opportunity to co-author a research paper. We proved a new theorem.
We're talking statistical mechanics and percolation theory, the kind of stuff that makes your old algebra homework burst into flames out of shame. So yes, Winnie Cooper grew up and started publishing in academic journals. Kevin Arnold never stood a chance. And here's the bonus round. While Danica was off becoming a certified genius, her younger sister Crystal had already joined the Wonder Years back in season 2 as Becky Slater, the other girl who made Kevin's romantic life significantly more complicated. One McKellar sister broke his heart, the other one kept showing up to remind him about it.
Hi, you guys. Have you seen Kirk around? I'm supposed to meet him here. I don't think he's here. Why don't you sit with us? I don't know.
Hey, what's this? The physical contact too much to take?
Crystal later graduated from Yale and earned a law degree from Harvard, just in case the family resume wasn't intimidating enough. 2 sisters, 2 Ivy League level brains, and 1 suburban kid who spent 6 seasons trying to keep up. Kevin was outmatched from the start. He just didn't know it yet. Number 2, the writers were basically spying on the kids. One reason the Wonder Years always felt painfully authentic was that the writers were eavesdropping on the cast between takes. Not in a weird way, more like parents hovering near the kitchen doorway, pretending to read the newspaper while absorbing every word. According to Danica McKellar, the writing staff would quietly listen to her conversations with Fred Savage and then repurpose the good stuff for scripts.
I have to ask you something.
What?
I just have to know if you like me or not.
Half-finished thoughts, emotional honesty that didn't know how to explain itself yet. It was all fair game. That line, do you like him or do you like him?
Will you just answer the question, do you like her or not?
Well, sure I like her.
Well, do you like her?
Not like you like her.
Wasn't cooked up in a writer's room, it came almost word for word from a real conversation McKellar was having about a boy she had a crush on. Millions of viewers heard a genuine middle school moment broadcast on network television. McKellar later said there were a lot of blurred lines between real life and the script. Kevin and Winnie worked because the friendship underneath was real. The nervousness, the hesitation, the comfort mixed with confusion, none of that was manufactured.
Yeah, well, I think you do well.
Isn't it amazing?
Jason Hervey confirmed the same thing. Wayne's most obnoxious moments were pulled directly from Hervey's relationship with his own brother. The casual cruelty disguised as love was a lived experience filmed for entertainment. The Wonder Years didn't invent childhood. The writers just stood close enough to overhear it and wrote it all down. Number 1, Puberty nearly broke Kevin and Winnie. For 6 seasons, Kevin Arnold and Winnie Cooper were television's gold standard for first love. Awkward, innocent, and painfully relatable. But behind the scenes, biology had other plans, and it did not care about ABC's production schedule. Between seasons 3 and 4, Danica McKellar hit puberty fast, really fast. She shot up in height while Fred Savage was still hovering somewhere under 5 feet. Suddenly, America's sweetest TV couple looked less like childhood soulmates and more like a high schooler walking her little brother to the bus stop. Producers actually said the pairing didn't look right anymore, so the writers did what TV writers do best. They wrote puberty into the story. Kevin and Winnie drifted apart, and Winnie got pushed into the background while Kevin sulked through adolescence alone. It wasn't heartbreak, it was height difference management.
Guess I got a little lost.
which was true in more ways than one.
I was thinking about you.
Which was true too.
Once Savage finally hit his own growth spurt, the Lovebirds reunited. But puberty doesn't stop once it starts. By season 6, Savage's voice had deepened so much it was actually lower than Daniel Stern's adult narration, which probably wasn't what anyone planned when they cast a 12-year-old to carry a primetime drama. ABC pulled the plug not because the stories ran out, but because the kids didn't look like kids anymore. The Wonder Years ended because time finally caught up. And there you have it, 15 weird facts about the Wonder Years. Which one surprised you the most? Which one hit a little too close to home? Let us know in the comment section below and share this with a friend who still gets emotional when Joe Cocker starts playing. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and until next time, this is Remember When.